TIL. After Breaking Bad, many meth manufacturers in real life dyed their product blue. Every now and then, the news will show the seized items of a police sting operation, and there is always at least one bag of blue meth. It's never that beautiful blue crystal Heisenberg was making, but rather a cloudy baby blue that looks like road salting chemicals. I prefer mine to be chili flavored. Blue, yellow, pink, whatever, man. I love it when TV shows inspire small businesses. Americans of Reddit, in light of the current political climate between our countries, how do you guys actually feel about us Canadians? I've been visiting Canada frequently since the age of 6. Canadians have always been open and friendly. I now have friends there and am so familiar I consider it a second home. Welland, Thorold, Niagara-on-the-Lake, St. Catharines, Toronto, Crystal Lake Amusement Park when it existed. I love Canada. The people of Canada, or Russia, or China, etc., and the people of the US are friends. We can't let them make us think otherwise. Most Americans think positively about Canadians. This whole 51st state stuff is just so embarrassing. I think most everyone here loves and respects our neighbors to the north. You've not only been great trading partners and allies, but you've given us a lot of great shows. Moreover, anyone who knows anything about history knows we really don't want to fight you. That said, if ya felt like burning down the White House again, maybe the rest of us could just be very busy that day. TIL. About Peter Hagendorf, a German mercenary who fought during the 30 Years' War and kept a diary. In it he casually describes the death of several of his children, being shot, and abducting women. I read a book on that war a while ago and it was incredibly brutal. I remember reading descriptions where they talk about going through villages where everyone was dead, or where the only person left alive was the parish priest. Germany's population decreased by perhaps as much as 1/3 during that period. The most interesting part of the diary that keeps shining through is how absolutely not a single soldier on either side saw this as a war of religion. It didn't matter one bit to them on which side they fought as long as they got paid, and they often switched sides, multiple times. It was a brutal time, decades of devastating war bleeding the country dry, small ice age on top. Being a mercenary was often the only way to make a living for a lot of men. May God grant her a happy resurrection. X4. A haunting reminder on how war leads to the naturalization of absolute violence, and what it does to the people who return. TIL. A man was awarded $412 million against a men's health clinic that misdiagnosed him with erectile dysfunction and unnecessarily gave him 3 penile injections a week to treat it, which caused irreversible damage. It's the largest amount ever awarded by a jury in the US in a medical malpractice case. Yikes. Most medical malpractice suits are just from a doctor having a bad day and making a misdiagnosis. This case actually feels like criminal behavior. Imagine having legal proof that your dick was worth $400 million, but no use of it. TIL. That 78% of New Zealand is uninhabited. Well, yeah, all those elves left at the end and went to Australia or something. This is interesting, but not that unusual. If you look at population maps, almost everyone lives on the coast, near a lake or port or river, or near a historic transportation hub, Atlanta, Georgia. Few people live out in a remote wilderness where it makes no practical sense to build a city. What traumas do you have that aren't from your parents or childhood home? Ignoring a text from a close friend to kick it and him getting shot and killed the next day. My sister was murdered when I was 18. For years, if someone was late, even slightly, I assumed they were dead. Once when I was a kid, I picked up a toy flute off the ground at my friend's house and inhaled with it in my mouth before I started blowing into it. Next thing I knew, I had a mouthful of ants. I kept spitting, but there were so many and they had the most acrid awful taste. I cried and rinsed my mouth out, but it took so long until I stopped tasting ants. What are your thoughts of a Reddit-wide ban of X links? I have to log into my non-existent Twitter account to see a vast majority of things. Just post a screenshot of the tweet. It would be much easier. Any site that doesn't let you see stuff without an account is worthless for sharing links, so I fully support it. Considering I left X and the dumb site won't let me access 90% of the links without logging in, I'm all for it. The US to stop producing pennies, what do you think? Canada did it 7 to 8 years ago. It's been better. As for stopping production of the penny, absolutely about goddamn time. As for the way it was done, absolutely not a safe method of government. This is a job for Congress. If Congress is too disabled to do their job, then action should be taken to make Congress effective, not work around them. The US no longer makes any sense. Till that 11-year-old Ted Danson and his friends chopped down a bunch of billboards around Flagstaff, AZ, because they obstructed views of nature. He was caught when his father, a museum curator, learned that billboards for the Museum of Northern Arizona were spared. "Well, if I ever find out that you did it, I will be furious," and left the room. A few seconds later, he pushed the door open again and said that he hoped Ted had cut down a real estate agent's billboard that he particularly disliked. Haha, love that little quip about the real estate agent's billboard. "Father, I cannot tell a lie. I did it with my little hatchet." Anyone read The Monkey Wrench Gang? My late father used to do volunteer work for the Museum of Northern Arizona late in life, and was a huge Edward Abbey fan. He met Ted Danson at a fundraising thing in Flagstaff, and got to hear about this story from Ted himself. It was one of the highlights of my dad's last couple years of being healthy. I have a photo saved of the two of them laughing together that night, one of the best photos of my father before he got really sick. TIL, Mars bars are made of 60% sugar. Yep, candy is sugar. Alternatively, Earth bars are made of alcohol and bad choices. TIL, all of the 500 fastest supercomputers in the world run on Linux. I mean, yeah, why would you need to use Windows? Windows is built with end users in mind. For servers and supercomputers, you just want full raw functionality without fluff. What did you think they ran? Windows 11 Home Edition. With dynamic wallpaper? You can run a train on Linux. Almost all servers in the world also run Linux. LPT, when someone raises their voice, lower yours. It's a psychological power move. Had an old baseball coach that talked quietly when we were all surrounding him talking. It shut everyone up because they couldn't hear him. Was kinda genius. Anybody got a tip if I'm the voice raiser? If I'm worked up enough to raise my voice, even if the other person is maintaining their composure, I have trouble calming down. You're absolutely right, the most composed person holds the most power, as they can simply say to me, "Watch your tone, you are raising your voice right now." The best I've come up with is, postpone talking about whatever it was. I can't talk about this anymore right now without being worked up, and I'd like to calm down. When someone is having a rant or a tantrum, I like to let them just have it. I will stand there calmly and let them burn themselves out. When they are done, I will continue the conversation as if the whole thing never happened. It usually infuriates them and leads to another outburst, but I just repeat the process until they learn they can't control the situation by acting like a toddler. What is a show you watched during your childhood that you are convinced nobody remembers? There was a show called Sagway, the Chinese Siamese cat, that I watched as a kid, and I feel like nobody remembers it. It was about a little Siamese cat in ancient China, and it had such a unique animation style and sweet stories. It aired on PBS, but I rarely hear anyone talk about it now. Maggie and the Ferocious Beast. Beetlejuice, people know the movies, but I never hear anyone talk about the cartoon. Lamb Chop. Heck, I barely remember LOL. Do you know of someone who ruined their life in just a matter of minutes? If so, how did they do it? Third-hand story from a former co-worker. One of the other Marines at the base where he was stationed in the 90s stole plastic explosives from the test range and tried to sell them at a bar that was literally line of sight from the base. The first person to show any interest was an NCIS officer. That guy might still be in Leavenworth. Guy I went to high school was at a bar. Spoke to a girl at the bar, she said she had a boyfriend, he said okay and left it alone. Boyfriend was not impressed. Waited for him to go out for a smoke and sucker punched him. Fell, hit his head and died. So pointless. Local police chief did a hit and run over the weekend on a parked, unattended vehicle, in his department vehicle. By the end of the day Tuesday he was resigning. State police investigated and issued a bunch of summary offense citations. DUI was not among the charges. No one was hurt and the guy resigned, but, you know, there's only one reason you drive away from hitting something after midnight. Like and subscribe.